Yet again another poem for you. This one was published in July 1938 and is entitled Thy Ever-Changing Face. Thy ever-changing face of ocean and sky I beheld with great joy, sometimes calm, unruffled. Thy blue face silently suggests, I am the creator of all creation, be calm with me. Sometimes thy face breaks into endless laughter and ripples of light, displaying silver muscles. Sometimes thy skyey oceanic face storms and howls at me, I can destroy all creation. Sometimes thy boundless face wears the gloom of Nemesis and the sad clouds sorrowing with the sorrows of the world. Sometimes thy face smiles, or scorchingly aglow with violet rays to burn the darkness of disease. Thy sunny ocean face reveals paternal warmth and care. Sometimes thy pale blue sky and ocean face wears the dark veil of night adorned with the beauty mark of the moon, and eyes me with maternal love. Sometimes thy sky ocean face suddenly is dark with gloom and saddened into oblivion of all things. Meditating on thy spirit alone, saying, so long I entertained thee with my cosmic emotions of calmness, power, fear, joy, meditation, sun, moon, and storm. Now I hide my face in my bosom of eternity. We have this teaching in metaphysics, in Vedanta, and the teachings, especially of the East, and somewhat hidden in the teachings of the saints of the West, of Christianity, that all is God, all is Ram, as they sometimes say in India. But there are implications to that. We, with our more positive mindset in this day and age, we're always hopeful that the future will bring more and more revelations of both a material and spiritual nature. And in any case, we're a hopeful bunch of people, especially here in America. We tend to be optimistic, although these days that optimism is sorely pressed. But nonetheless, looking back over a longer period of time. And there's a reason for that. We are in an advancing age, an expansive age of consciousness, represented in material form by our technology and travel and education and overall awareness of health and science and so forth. But spiritually speaking, we haven't quite caught up. But nonetheless, there is a bottom line note of positiveness with those who are at least more in tune with the evolving consciousness and the evolution of humanity. There are many challenges, but then just step back, you think of all the new inventions and alternative energy sources, and we have at our fingertips as a race, as a planet, as a civilization, we could solve all the problems that we encounter. We have those tools, and I don't just mean material tools, I mean the tools of consciousness. But nonetheless, when we say we are one, when we say we see God's face in the blue sky and the ocean, we have to include everything. And there are, you might say, two kinds of people. That's an inside joke. So if you don't get the joke, never mind. There are two kinds of people, those who are positive and those who are negative. More than that, there are two forms of spirituality, the via negativa and the via positiva. Those are words from the Latin. And I've been rereading for some time now, the book that Yogananda recommended, The Imitation of Christ. He was once known to say, this isn't just the imitation of Christ, it is Christ. It was written by a priest or a monk known as Thomas à Kempis. I'm going to say in the 14th century, maybe it was before the Protestant revolt and all of that. And it's a very deep teaching, but it very much reflects the Christian negativa. In other words, the emphasis on suffering and the emphasis on carrying the cross. And I bring it up because the reading I did at my morning meditation today was all about the need to carry our cross, the cross of Christ. And Yogananda would quote the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying, although I have yet to find the stanza in the Bhagavad Gita as it's printed, but he insisted it was so. And he quotes Krishna saying to Arjuna, "Get away from my ocean of suffering." And did not Buddha himself go on his great search, his quest, based on the recognition that life is suffering, threefold suffering of illness, old age, and death? And so, as positive as we might be inclined to be, there's also what we might assume our body and ego might accept, define as negative. In the weekly Festival of Light, the beautiful ceremony that we do here at Ananda Worldwide on Sundays, we say, whereas in the past the coin of man's redemption was sorrow and suffering, for us now the payment has been exchanged for calm acceptance and joy. Because there is the recognition that pain is the fruit of self-love, meaning the ego, whereas joy is the fruit of living for God. So the emphasis in our time is on the via positiva. Yet Swami Kriyananda would say that in the presence of Yoganandaji in the ashram with close disciples, he more than he did publicly emphasized the need for ego transcendence. And so both are true, via negativa, via positiva. And what is this thing, the cross, that the old-time Christians talk about so much? Well, the real cross is our ego. I think I quoted Mark Twain, maybe even yesterday, saying the problem with travel is that wherever you go, you are there. And so when we lift the serpent on the cross, it's lifting the serpent of ego, lifting it up to be redeemed by the light of the soul. You see, the Christian teachings aren't, as many people in the New Age movement like to imagine. It's not that they're wrong or narrow or sectarian, though they're expressed that way. It's that they're not expressed in their fullest way, which is why someone like Yogananda and others, but he was an avatar, a great divine and world teacher, brought a new dispensation to express those universal truths which were in the past expressed as the via negativa, and to show the positiva, if you will, interpretation of that. And so it's the ego that suffers. Jesus is suffering on the cross when they say it saved our sins or whatever they say. He's giving us the example of what is necessary in order to experience the resurrection of the soul. Again, Christians, and not just Christians, but it was the consciousness of those times, interpret the resurrection of Jesus as his body primarily, and as hope that they will get their bodies back in heaven. Well, it seems unlikely, doesn't it? It's a very narrow and honestly egoic. In other words, I get to keep my beautiful body, and but it'll be nice and shiny and new again when I at the resurrection of the dead, at the judgment day. Judgment, too, is basically an assessment of our karma. Sin is ignorance. So all of these truths have a deeper meaning, or even we could say that they can be expressed in a way that's meaningful to us in this day and age. You can be sure Jesus lives as we speak, has probably been reincarnated, But no matter, it's not that important. What difference would it make, as Yogananda once said? So the cross that we carry is ourselves. And that includes the body with all of its troubles, with its aging process, and with the fact that it dies. This is our cross. And to be able to bear this cross with the presence of Christ the Redeemer, meaning the soul itself, your soul, is the Christ. The Christ is in all creation, but as it relates to you as you think you are in the ego and in the body, the Christ is the soul resident in the body. In fact, yogis tell us at the crown chakra, at the top of the head. And so all of this is true. We just have a need to understand it and express it in a new and divine way. And so carrying the cross means, as I emphasized yesterday, to be able to approach life even-mindedly and cheerfully amidst the crash of breaking worlds. And I think I'll end now and just say that since I brought up the optimism of our age, I think it's fair also to say that there is a deep and abiding pessimism of our age. When you think of all the futuristic movies that I can think of made during my lifetime, which started in 1950, sort of a metallic, sterile presentation of the future. And, I think of the book 1984, which is such a joke because 1984 came and went. But it's very possible now with technology, surveillance and that kind of thing. And so I think there's very good reason, I know there's very good reason to maybe even fear the future, at least know that it's not bright as a shiny new nickel. It's got some challenges for humanity, but we hold the keys both within to the inner kingdom of the soul, but even as a race, as humanity, we hold the keys to turn the sow's ear into a silk purse of harmony, understanding. And to close, I'll just say, and since I'm closing on that more outward note, it's not that the world will become a paradise, as we hippies thought in the 60s, in the age of Aquarius. Rather, there will always be troubles, but the increase of consciousness, the increase of awareness of consciousness, the acceptance of the underlying unity within diversity of races and genders and different lifestyles and so on, this will march on. There's no stopping it, no matter what conflicts will take place between those who want to stick to the old ways and those whose consciousness is more expansive and accepting. And so it is. The way of Via Negativa and the way of the Via Positiva, they must coexist, for we are one. Joy and blessings to you, and we'll resume our broadcasts next week, beginning on Monday.